Hello and welcome to our English project about the Freudian theory. So let's just get started by jumping right into what is, according to Freud, the three main parts of the personality. So first off, we have the id, which is made up of natural impulses, hunger, thirst, going to the bathroom, stuff like that. Things that you're just compelled to do based off of like instinct and things that you just know from birth, and that's called the pleasure principle. The second main aspect is the superego, which is the moral principle, or what society says that you should do in the situation. And finally, we have the ego, which is the reality principle. It compromises between the ID and the superego to determine behavior. So according to Freud, those are the three main aspects that make up personality. That's a lot of information at once, so I think the best way to explain it would be with an example to help you understand. Okay, so let's imagine there's this hypothetical person named Jerry. Now, Jerry has some homework that he needs to get done tonight, and it'll probably take like an hour. But Jerry also wants to go out and hang out with his friends. According to Freud's theory, you have the superego, which would be the one that's saying, oh, you should do your math homework and get that done because you need it done for tomorrow. Kind of like in cartoons when you have the angel and the devil on the shoulder, which would, in this case, mean that the superego is the angel. And that leaves the id, which would be the one saying that Jerry can go out with his friends and, maybe not do the homework for tonight, which would represent the devil on the shoulder. Now, the ego is the aspect of the personality that would be trying to come to a reasonable compromise between the two. So maybe he does half his homework then, and then he goes and hangs out with his friends, but he makes sure to come home early enough that he can finish off the rest of his homework. But Freud also came up with the idea of these things called defense mechanisms, which is when the ego is distorted because it wants to avoid feelings of anxiety or negative feelings that it would get from the id impulses. Defense mechanisms can be a good or bad thing because they can be a healthy way to avoid those negative impulses or feelings, or it could be something that is bad for you. Now trust me, I get it, this one's a little bit weird, but bear with me. Another main part of the Freudian theory is the Oedipus complex. According to his theory, it occurs during the phallic stage of psychosexual development. It involves a boy aged between 3 and 6 becoming unconsciously sexually attached to his mother and hostile towards his father, who he views as his rival, as he wants to possess his mother.
And so, the result is a murderous rage against the father and a desire to possess the mother. Any questions? Yes, Sigmund?
I totally relate to that.
You relate to that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the other part, that is the equivalent for a girl, is the electric complex, which is the term used to describe a girl's sense of competition with her mother for the affections of her father. So it's basically the same thing as the Oedipus complex for males, but for females. And so to finish things off, we've prepared a skit that represents the Oedipus complex. I would say in a way that's more understandable, but it's pretty incomprehensive. So we just basically made a joke about the whole wanting to possess the mother and the wording that's used around that. And so Sigmund walked up and said, I want to possess you, mother. And because of this, I want to kill you, father. And so Freud drew his lightsaber, very of the era, and said, I'm gonna kill you! But he failed, and then he went, Ah, said the father, and the father died. Sigmund was very happy, quite content with this, and the father was not. The father was quite unhappy that he was dying, as you can see, as demonstrated here. And Freud went, yay! Ooh, said the father. I'm back from I'm a ghost now, and I'm going to possess you, woman. And then possessed her. And Freud said, oh no, even after my father died, he still possesses my mother. Ha ha, says the father. Thanks for listening.